Good afternoon, friends. Give me 1 second to reorganize this. Okay, we don't want to navigate away from that window by any means. So here we have our live stream happening. Here's our agenda, and here's our Facebook screening. Okay, so can our friends in the Zoom call say that they're seeing things okay? You're seeing my PowerPoint presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm hoping also that we are screening onto Facebook, and I wonder, can any of you check that?
Yeah, you're streaming on Facebook right now.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome, friends. Welcome to our Equinox Circle of All Nations gathering. That Circle of All Nations has hosted an Equinox spring event here in Ottawa, acknowledging also the Day for Racial Harmony, drawing on the old history of the United Nations Day for the elimination of racism and xenophobia. Those two themes, recognizing the equinox and its connection with nature and peace building, have guided much of the work of the Circle of All Nations over the years, but particularly with the beginning of the new season, it's particularly important to us. And as I've done with all our Facebook Live events so far, I've lit sage, which is really the sacred herb that Grandfather William Commander always used when he greeted people and invited them to his meetings and invited them to come together with good hearts and good minds and to bring their best thoughts and sharing forward to our relationships with each other and to our sharing of ideas. And now I am going to move on to the next image in our presentation and give you all a minute to draw your minds together to our work at hand for today in whatever way is meaningful to you. This is our geocosmic prayer. And particularly significant right now in view of the moment, in view of the equinox. And we have said Grandfather William Commander's legacy from 2020 reflects this: a Circle of All Nations geocosmic prayer and reflection with iconic symbols of importance to the William Commander worldview, and these are incorporated in this image. Grandmother Moon and Grandfather and the Morning Star, invoking the spirit of enlightenment and the cosmic. Asin and the sleeping giant, connecting earth creation in rock. Air, wind, movement, animating water life emergent from the oxygen rocks of the Kitchissippi Ottawa River. The birch, the wolf, the eel, and turtle honoring evolution, plant and animal life, Turtle Island, and canoe, acknowledging the ultimate nurturer, Mother Earth, and symbolizing the enigmatic journey of life. This was a graphic design created by Maduran for the Circle of All Nations. And we're very happy to have Dominic Cote with us. And Dominic, I wonder if you would mind reading out the translation of the text in French. You did that for us. Could you do that? And can you see it? Is that not working, Nick?
Yeah, there's something up with your mic.
Okay, well, perhaps we'll finish off with that at the end of the session. Okay, so I'll go back to the image, give people a moment to focus on it.
We can hear you. It's just it's very high pitched, which is a bit weird.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay, we leave that perhaps for later, and maybe we'll get that mic working right. But thank you very much for translating that prayer for us and giving us some sense of the integration of the French language in the effort. We know we're missing Algonquin, but we know that grandfather's prayer is the heart of this work, and the indigenous language comes out in our reinterpretations of him. But we're grateful to also have the French engagement in this work to a certain extent. So today, the synopsis of our agenda is that we are working towards a shared vision for a better world for all. And this is the message of the United Nations Secretary General over the past year. For us, this session is about acknowledging the Equinox, World Water Day, United Nations Day for the Elimination of Racism and Xenophobia, and also International Women's Day, which happened earlier this month. And we are going to start with a song that just came our way very recently.
Hear my breath and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood. Hear my breath and fire my spirit. I like to sing to the earth, I like to hold her. She likes to sing to me, likes to hold me. I like to sing to the earth, I like to hold her. She likes to sing to me, she likes to hold me. I carry fistfuls of leaves. I make love to the breeze. I carry fistfuls of bones. I trust they will lead me home. I carry grief on my wings. I know I can smoke. My women have suffered wounds, but my grandmother was with me. Close eyes, can't you see? Are here the rose, the crow, and the deer. I am surrounded by light, the light of stories. I need to quiet my mind, I need to listen. We are surrounded by light, the light of stories. We need to steals the beat of my mind. Steals the beat of my mind.
Thank you. And now, can you just assure me that we're back on and visible?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I wanted to say that this is our formal agenda for today. We have 4 speakers. We were going to be having actually 4 live speakers. And unfortunately, a couple of hours ago, I found that our friend Farron Waluat, who is our new colleague from Pakistan, discovered last night that he has COVID. And so he is not able to join us in person. And he and I then earlier today did a recording of his presentation. But earlier, Nick and I were practicing it, and it made my computer die several times. So video with that, but he will also be sending us the text of his speech, so it will be included then in our report on the meeting. Basically, we became friends a couple of months ago, and I began to understand that this young man in Pakistan, a banker by trade, but deeply moved by the struggles of people around him, embarked over the last 10 years on a journey of taking hope to people all over the place. And this has taken the form in the context of World Water Day, in the creating of water pumps in the desert areas in Pakistan, where villagers have to walk 5 miles every day to collect water, where women are primarily responsible for this task, and where it's really, really been both challenging in terms of life and challenging in terms of health and and things like that. So over the course of time, he has built 300 water wells in various locations, but tells me that the need for these water pumps is in excess of 1,000. So many people have volunteered and provided funds, charitable funds, to help him do this work. In this process, he's set up 6 water wells in the name of the Circle of All Nations in view of our collaboration by sharing ideas on things that are important to us in the context of social justice and things like that. And I am not going to show you the I wonder if I could try and show. No, I'm not going to be able to show you that video either, but that is a link that you'd be able to get to later to see more of his work. In addition to the creation of the water pumps, he also does a lot of interfaith work with various communities to build bridges of peace amongst the people. He's done a lot of work with transgender communities, including helping a transgender person secure a bank account in order to be able to purchase a home. So he's doing things that are creating institutional change in Pakistan, and actually inspiring work elsewhere, inspiring work um, in Africa. I'm so sorry that I can't risk playing that video right now, um, but hopefully we'll give him his voice later in the session. Now, since I'm not exactly seeing with all our participants, can you tell me whether Graciela is on? Graciela Yanovsky, Dr. Graciela Yanovsky. No, I don't see her here. Okay. Uh, I'll move then to our presentation in the context of the United Nations Day for the Elimination of Racial Harmony and Xenophobia with two of our folk of South African ancestry. We have Jackie Manar and Sarifa Molanens. Are you there, Sarifa? I saw her there earlier. And Jackie, can you unmute so that we can get you into the conversation?
Hello, I'm here.
Hello. Do we also see Sarifa there? I saw her there earlier. No, hey?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay.
She's having some technological issues.
Oh, and we've been having quite a few of them today already, so it's been like rather a panicky thing. But it's really, really great. Pleasure for me, a former South African myself, to introduce two very special people. Okay, now can Facebook people or Nick, can you tell me, are we now occupying a good deal of the screen? Can people see Jackie and Sarifa very well?
I'm just looking now. It's a bit small. It's taking up about an eighth of the screen, but it is good.
It is good. Okay,
it's not necessarily hard to see them. It's just, oh, that's really, really good. Yeah,
that's better. Okay, well, terrific. And I think people can turn on the speaker view and maybe catch each of them in turn, right? So I myself am from South Africa. I left there 50 years ago, and 20 years ago, Grandfather William Commander hosted the International Peace Gathering here in Ottawa, and we had several youth from South Africa also participating with us, and one of them was Sarifa, and we were just by chance reconnected via Facebook a couple of months ago, and you joined us. And then we discovered that you're actually now living in Norway and doing all sorts of interesting work there. And then a sudden other coincidence, I joined an art class and met Jackie. And Jackie did such an amazing painting for our Christmas event. And then I began to understand a lot more about her heritage in South Africa. And we talked about that at one of our Facebook events in December. So I want to introduce both of you and then turn the mic over to you to share a little bit about your stories in the context of this United Nations Day for the culture of peace that we're hoping to see manifest, and yeah, and how this vision can impact the global community. So yeah, okay. So over to you two, and Jackie. Maybe we'll start with you because you're our a senior member of our group.
Yes, thank you, Romola. To me, it was wonderful to be able to connect with you through the art group
And sometimes we don't realize that our experiences might have an influence on other people. And I did a little drawing of a special tree ornament. And then I shared my story of my first Christmas in Canada, which is now 25 years ago. Um, in South Africa, my husband had been an engineer for 15 years and engineering manager for 5 years. But coming to a new country, your qualifications aren't always recognized, and he had to start over as a tradesperson, and only finding a job far north, Flin Flon, Larange, Whitehorse. And I was in Vancouver with our two young children, 10 and 12 at the time. And I've since learned a lot about, because I lived with apartheid in South Africa, and earlier history, had my dad in internment camp because we were from German descent. And then I came to Canada and I learned about the internment of the Japanese people here, and land being occupied. And, I feel that I always had a big guilt, and which turned into anger. But since meeting up with Romola and learning so much more, I realized that I don't have to feel guilty, or I don't have to feel angry, but I always have to recognize the role of my people, my race, myself. I always have to acknowledge it, but that I have to be with a grateful heart and open ears, listen and learn from other people. In that first Christmas year in Canada, I had, at that point, I had 75 cents in my wallet, and I couldn't buy bread because bread was 86 cents. And my little Christmas tree was a gift from a friend, and there was a group called the Welcome Wagon, and they asked if they could give me some stuff, and I was very grateful for that. So in there was a gift card for IGA. And when we came to Canada, I stayed with my cousin for 3 months, and she asked me if I could do 2 legs of lamb for the Christmas, because that's a traditional meal that we have for Christmas time. And my husband working up north, we didn't have the appropriate clothing or anything, and there was a gift card in there for the Bay. And just through all those gifts and that little tree, we'd eaten pasta and meat and pasta and cheese. And as the month went by, it just turned into pasta. But I kept some of the little pasta shells that I painted and put on the tree. And I kept the pumpkin pips from the Thanksgiving pumpkin, and I put that on the tree. So even today, I hang those on there to remember, where we came from and how we experienced a new country, but also the acceptance and the love of Canadians, and being able to grow and live here without fear. I think in where we live in the Rocky Mountains, we don't have, and we are lucky because this still happens everywhere, but we don't have a fear of walking outside late because of people, but more because of the animals out here. And so, I count myself lucky in that. And I do realize that even though I found that a very hard new start in a new country, that through learning and being with everybody else, that I am still privileged. I grew up in privileged. Even though it was hard, I'm still in privilege, just because of my color of my skin. and that we always need to acknowledge that, but not that learn through that and learn from our fellow humans. And I think, Romola, that that's been my experience in a new country that has now become home.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that is quite interesting, really, because I mean, I do know not just necessarily you.
Romola, I think you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay, before I say anything more, maybe we'll ask Sarifa to join the conversation.
Thank you, Romola. Thank you for the invitation to this beautiful occasion. And today is such an important day, actually. It's just not about, the UN Day celebrating or commemorating Sharpeville, but it's also Nowruz, which is, National Day for the Kurdish people. It is also, World Day for Down syndrome. And it's also International Poetry Day. So I write poetry, so I would like to start actually with a poem that I wrote many, many years ago as, a youth activist back home. And it's called Cry for Africa. Oh, beautiful Africa, where are you? I can no longer see your beauty, nor can I feel your serenity. I cannot hear your melodious songs of inspiration or the energetic dances of jubilation. I am trying to recall your words of wisdom, the ones that united us in the struggle for freedom. Who are you now, aspiring Africa? I cannot see you, for my vision is blurred from the smog which the shanty towns and your capitalist friends have stirred. My eyes cannot see you, for they are filled with tears, tears for the death of your children, sons and daughters who live in fear of civil war, genocide, poverty. Their cries, their cries are deafening. Africa, why? Why is this happening? Your children run around with AK-47s losing their innocence and tickets to heaven. The lack of education and proper guidance are fashionable. The pain and consequences are immeasurable. Do you enjoy watching the plague of corruption with the many regimes' dysfunction? We are tired of this dis-ease. Can't you do something, please? Whatever happened to Biko, Nyerere, and Nkrumah, Harambe, Ubuntu, Ujamaa? Mandela opened his mouth and spoke. Did we listen, hear, or think he's just one of those freaks? Why do we not listen to the messengers of our time? To lend an ear or feel their passion today cannot be a crime. Why do we wait until after they have demised to understand, feel empowered and conscientized? Rise, Mother Africa, and together with the trees and birds sing in unison. Guide your children from their quandary and self-built prison. Rise like the phoenix and lead us to a true African renaissance, to the true liberation of humanity. Rise, Mother Africa, rise. Thank you.
Wow.
So yeah, that was written many years ago, but I think it's still, prevalent today. I am from Durban, from South Africa, born and raised in Durban. I am a descendant of the enslaved people of East Africa. My people came to South Africa in 1873 was the first shipment of freed slaves from the East African coast, and they were brought as cheap labor to work in Natal. And because during apartheid we were Muslim and the apartheid government did not know what to do with us, so we were classified other Asians because we had Islam in common with the people of Asian descent in South Africa. So I was born and raised in a Muslim community in South Africa. I've written my PhD thesis on the maintenance and shift of a minority group in South Africa, because for we've managed to maintain our language and culture for over 135 years, being a minority group in South Africa. I got involved in youth activism at a very early age, from the age of 12. Was very active in student organizations, in the youth league, and later joined the Black Consciousness movement. And this was via Umtapo Center, of which I sit on the board today. I left party politics because I felt that I had a bigger role to play, or that I could contribute to something bigger, which was bringing liberation, or true liberation, to humanity. And it started with, for me, the South African people, as well as my people who are the Makuas in Durban in South Africa. And from there, I was active in an organization called Helping Hands back in the day. And part of, our activism as youth back in the day was to organize youth programs for the community, theater, as well as, especially around Christmas and Eid, putting together food hampers for the poor people in our community and distributing them the day before Eid or the day before Christmas, those sorts of things. But also, whilst I grew up in a predominantly Indian community, and there were lots of issues of racism, we still found common ground. And that I felt I needed to share with, people outside of Chatsworth. That's the area where I come from. And so, became very active in SASCO later on at the university, and, continued. Now I live in Norway, actually. And I've said this and people look at me weirdly, but, yes, I experienced racism in South Africa, and I think it was so overt. And it had a name. It was apartheid, and you knew how to deal with it. But when you come to a country that purports to be progressive, and think, wow, I'm in Norway. Norway played a pivotal role in the anti-liberation movement. Let's see how this goes. And I think the naivete hit me. And when you face the racism, I think it took me backwards. Coming here with all these ideas, I always say I came with, this suitcase full of excitement, of knowledge, information, as well as enthusiasm to want to contribute. And then you met with this winding road that seems endless, and there are no signs on the road to tell you how to get there. So it was challenging, and I must add that I was depressed, because how do you begin to work with something that doesn't have a name, which has not been given a name in this new country? And I realized that I had to do a lot of work on myself. And I want to work on me so that when I begin to speak about these issues, I come from a place of love instead of a place of anger. Because, generally as a Black woman living in a, white place, and you speak to colleagues or confronting these issues, then you become, labeled the angry Black woman. But, I've always said, I would love, for my Almighty, for my ancestors to guide me. And I draw on the spirit of Nefertiti and Zinga and Makeda, their grace and their wisdom to be able to be eloquent and articulate, so that when people listen, they listen and don't, meet the angry Black woman that they want to quickly label. Because that's what we are good at. We always like putting labels on people instead of engaging and finding out who we are as human beings, as individuals, and take off the labels together. So that's a lot of what I'm doing at the moment. I work with the inclusion of refugees in Norway. That's one of the projects that I work on. And for me, a lot of it is about helping refugees providing the necessary information and tools to empower themselves so that they can tell their own narratives. And I think this is one of the things that is so important in the work that we do, is we do not speak for somebody else. Do not tell somebody else's narrative because you have not walked in their shoes. And so this is another reason why I started my company, which is, Ubuntu coaching. And I do a lot of consultancy work. And a lot of it is about helping women with immigrant backgrounds, and in some cases men, and our youth, to find themselves, to be able to define who they are as opposed to someone else defining who they are. One. And to be proud of who that person is, and all these identity, that encapsulate who this person is, and then to be able to speak for themselves. Tell your story. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you very much. Uh, would you like to add to that, Jackie? I'm just also kind of like remembering when Sarifa first came to our grandfather commanders gathering, and we had the representatives of the four races of South Africa sharing the hotel space together. And I think you wrote something to the effect of, under the arms and the blessings of the grandfather commander, uh, the black, the white, the colored, the Indian energies were able to negotiate a different level of relationship, right? Was it something to that effect that you experienced then? Um,
Absolutely. I mean, I was smiling earlier. Also, when you sent me the video of Jackie, because it reminded me of meeting Renee at this conference 20 years ago.
yes.
And Renee was, an Afrikaans woman. And in South Africa, I've seen Afrikaans people, but to engage with them on another level was so, interesting. And then, now it's Jackie, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is a test for me because, I'm talking about racial healing, reconciliation, and how we work together beyond, the color lines. And so it's like, yeah, now you need to walk your walk, just don't talk the talk, because now I'm meeting Jackie, and, we're on the same platform and engaging. So, I mean, this is beautiful. This is beautiful, and I'm grateful for that. But with Renee, it was so interesting because I had to share a room with her, and so there it was in my face, and I was like, okay, Sarifa, you can do this. And I was about 21 years old, having met an Afrikaner like intimately to an extent because we shared a room and bathroom, and having this opportunity to get to know this person. It wasn't Renee the white woman, Renee the Afrikaans woman, but it was just Renee. And going through these experiences of the sweat lodge and all the different things that we experienced in Canada, I think was beautiful. And for me, a start of a different journey in terms of, yes, healing, but also, seeing people for people. This is who they are. This was a beautiful woman with so much of energy. And I mean, I fell in love with her because it was just like, this is a beautiful soul. I mean, I think I had said at one point whilst we were in Canada, I was like, she was such a beautiful soul. It's sad she was Afrikaans. But yeah. So I think, yeah, I mean, I'm sitting in Norway, married to a Norwegian man. So I think, I've come a long way from being this anti-white person in South Africa.
What a good.
Sarifa, yes, the poem that you read was just so beautiful. And being born in Africa, that spoke to me. But I've always felt that I can't own that because of the color of my skin. But listen to your voice and just all those amazing words. It's wonderful to be able to speak on it. And one thing that I don't even know, is it the right thing to say or whatever, but seeing your face, I grew up in South Africa, so, um, you know, I was surrounded by black faces, and I truly, honestly miss that, because I think in Canmore, where I live, there might be one black person, but can I say that? Can I say that I miss seeing black people? So yeah, there's always that guilt, but also the yearning.
It's so true, so powerful and disturbing, this experience that we've all had in different ways. And really, the only answer I've really found is the kind of thing that Grandfather William Commander initiated with his Circle of All Nations, because he made us all see each other as people. And that was irrespective of race and things like that. Everything else was part of the mix. So when you mentioned having watched the video with Jackie, and that was a very powerful one that we did on December 16th. Also talking a little bit about our joint history in terms of South Africa. But in that story, we also understood the faces of the German in the Jackie, the faces of the racism that I have had to experience here in Canada and others, the kind of, I don't know, gender racism thing that has exploded in the States yet again with the Asian woman story. Um, and then at another level, we all connect as people, and we find that there are marvelous things for us to share and exchange. And you guys are so creative. But Jackie, you've also brought in the indigenous thread into the family of the Circle of All Nations through your own family, and so
Yes.
certainly things are generating towards the future. And I just like to sort of like draw Dominique into the conversation for a minute, because some of the challenges for Indigenous peoples here in Canada is around who are the real Indigenous folk. And there are people who feel the beat of the land that they're on and hear the voices of their ancestors, and yet it's legal things that have been inflicted on people in this colonial country that again creates differences and barriers, really barriers, eh? But Dominic, you came to grandfather's gatherings many years ago. Parlez au français, s'il vous plaît.
Oh no.
Oh no, sorry. That maybe take the earphones off. Can you just speak with the computer?
You could try plugging in the where it plugs into the computer. Just give it a little jiggle and push it a little harder, and see if that helps.
Um, Maybe you're going to have to write that message in the chat bar for Dominique, Nick, and we'll worry about that. We'll take care of that a little later. Where about? Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, thank both of you very much for joining us. We're doing these connections with people all over the world, and my friend from I like to just actually toss two more things in based on what you said, Sarifa, in terms of the Down syndrome story, because really our gatherings have been animated by people with what our friend Adrian Esposito, an Asperger syndrome young man, called diffabilities. And he has presented at our workshops before. He has actually created documentaries, one of them being Inner Journeys of Healing, where he talks to Indigenous elders about how to engage in his own healing journey. And so he's brought so much of wisdom to us. So yes. And then when, of course, you talk about the Muslim identity, the speaker we were going to have first, who unfortunately is ill, and unfortunately, though he did the recording of his presentation a couple of hours ago, I'm finding my computer is not allowing me to feed it in very well. But I shall. But I mean, he is there now, breaking barriers in Pakistan, but not just amongst the people of different backgrounds, the Hindus and the Muslims, the Christians and the Muslims, but also Facebook allows him to share his linkages with people at multiple levels. So he's helping us transform our notion of Pakistan and the images that we've created about the enemy, the face of the enemy over many years. And just today he posted something about buying some ice cream from a young boy and then leaving, but not remembering to take all his change. And then this young boy went racing after his vehicle through many, many stops in order to hand him the money. So, it's like, hey, let's look at people as they are and let's give people an opportunity to grow into their better selves, to grow into their potential. And I think that's why so many of us are so attached to Grandfather Commander, because he allowed us to become ourselves. He drew on our different potential, strengths, capacities to find our own voice. So thank you guys for sharing all of that. I'm going to say we perhaps will have a chance to chat a little bit more a little later. But now I don't see that I actually have my South American friends in here yet. But Emma, I wonder if we can go to your presentation. Emma is one of the students at Carleton University in her fourth year there in legal studies. And we'll all be interested in your presentation, but perhaps especially you, Dominique, in terms of the legal background, your own legal background, and in terms of the kind of lens, the environmental lens that Emma associates with her research. And so this is a presentation on reproductive justice through an environmental lens. So thank you, Emma. We will pass it over to you.
Hi, Romola, and everyone else who's joined us on Zoom and Facebook Live. I'm glad that this streaming connection thing is working today. That's pretty special to be able to do this. And like Romola said, I have been working with the Circle of All Nations with her since September of last year, and it's been a really rewarding experience being able to connect what I've been researching with more of like the grassroots knowledge and passions that come out of the initiatives to build peace and harmony across nations. And that has always been my passion, and this has given me it's given me a chance to become comfortable in it in a sense, and be a little more aware of how I can connect my training and my knowledge and more like the tactical experience that I have to something that's so much bigger than all of us, but we're all trying so hard to keep it, I guess, running smoothly for everyone across the nation and through different initiatives. And I think the Circle of All Nations is a really, really special thread that we're gathering. So before I play my presentation, I would just like to note that in the slides, there will be little bullet points for you to read, and then there'll be a voiceover with more information, my voice, on each slide. So it's kind of like a learning experience for everybody. So it's also, there's a link in, I think, the third or fourth slide on a recent article by Erin Brockovich. I'm sure everyone knows about the Flint, Michigan water crisis and everything that went on over there. So she recently wrote an article about how chemicals in everyday life, in plastics, cleaning supplies, our clothing, food, water, everything that we touch really has these chemicals in it that are affecting the male reproductive system. And she references a book that has information about how by 2045, which is only about 25 years from now, less than that actually, male reproduction may not be possible anymore because the chemicals are affecting the reproductive organs in such a drastic way. And my presentation does just touch on more of the domestic context across Canada, but this article I think is important because it shows the national or the international reach of these chemicals. It's not just contained to the communities where they originated from. So on that note, I believe that Nick needs to make me a co-host so I can play the presentation, I think.
You should be good to just start it by sharing your screen.
Okay, perfect. Bear with me. And I apologize if my dog barks. My roommate is walking around upstairs and sometimes he barks at him, so there may be a little bit of background noise at my end, but hopefully not. Romola, this will stop your screen sharing, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I hope you enjoy. It was a lot of fun putting together. Hello, my name is Emmeline Saylor. I am in my 4th year of Transnational Law and Human Rights at Carleton University and have a minor in psychology. And this production will be on reproductive justice through an environmental lens, specifically looking at the effect of toxins in the environment towards marginalized communities in Canada. Reproductive justice focuses on providing necessary social supports, which include a duty from governments to protect women's rights and make sure that safe, affordable, and accessible healthcare options are available. Polychlorinated biphenyls, which I will reference as PCBs, is an industrial chemical which was banned from use in 1979. In a 2000 study, PCBs were found in almost all pregnant Nunavut women. High consumptions of fish and marine mammals in communities in Arctic Canada results in high levels of PCBs. This chemical has been shown to lower birth weight and affect neurodevelopment of fetuses. The disparaging outcomes of these pregnancies remain unchanged and could be a result from social inequality, exposure between neighborhoods, and lack of access to proper health support. There is a significant effect on community health when they abandon traditional medicinal and cultural practices. Avoiding fish consumption results in unhealthy diets from grocery stores when buying bulk, prepackaged, and processed foods which cost less and provide more. PCBs and other persistent chemicals can make fathers susceptible to passing the toxins at time of conception. Lead exposure to the father also created developmental issues in newborns. Reducing harmful toxin exposure goes beyond clinical studies and laboratory research. Implementing policies and preventative action is vital for reducing toxin exposure to unborn children through exposure to their parents. Poor diets have resulted in community development of diabetes and heart disease, which are passed down to future generations. Fixing toxin exposure is not as simple as removing the source. Communities need more than a recognition of the consequential effects of ingesting PCBs. The future generations of Nunavut communities depend on this. Women in the Mjiwinab community began suffering from reproductive and developmental health effects linked to endocrine disruptors dubbed gender benders. Gender benders are linked through exposure to certain chemicals during critical windows of development, resulting in distinctly biological, developmental, and gendered issues. PCBs were also recently to have been proven to impede a woman's menstrual cycle, creating barriers to conceiving and maintaining pregnancy. Studies on PCB were conducted that eventually confirmed concerns about toxin contamination having adverse effects on reproduction, impacting both adolescents and adults. In adult males, lower testosterone was present from consuming specific PCBs found in freshwater fish. This was the similar result found in adolescent males. Shared language and knowledge, availability of support networks, and engaging in cultural practices all contribute to positive experiences within a community. Language maintains a connection to community through cultural philosophies that can establish a generation-focused approach to protecting the community and its members. The definition of health is multidimensional and applies to protecting future generations. The United Nations has developed multiple social development goals to assist the establishment and the continued support for developing countries. There are 3 goals that pertain to environmental, racism, and reproductive justice that I will be applying to this presentation, and they will be discussed on the following slides. The target is to reduce global maternal mortality rate by 2039, with no less than 70 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births. Further, by 2030, to provide prevention and treatment of non-communicable diseases to reduce premature mortality. UNSD aims to end preventable deaths of newborns and children under 5 years of age. They will do this by ensuring universal access to sexual and reproductive healthcare services for integrated into national strategies and programs, as well as reduce substantially the amount of illness and death from hazardous chemicals in air, water, and soil pollution and contamination. Finally, support the research and development of vaccines and medicines for communicable and non-communicable diseases. Targets of Goal 4 are to provide equal access to quality early childhood development, care, and pre-primary education by 2030, as well as eliminating education disparities among genders. This includes persons with disabilities, Indigenous peoples, and children living in vulnerable situations. Further, to ensure knowledge and skills are acquired that promote sustainable development. This includes such things as education, lifestyles, human rights, and gender equality. Goal 12 targets by 2020 were to achieve environmentally sound management of chemicals and have all waste go through a life cycle. Companies are being encouraged to adopt sustainable practices and integrate such information into reporting cycles. Public procurement of sustainable practices will be promoted to ensure that by 2030, people across the world will have relevant information and awareness for living in a sustainable environment. Developing countries will have support for strengthening scientific and technological capacity to move for a more sustainable pattern of consumption and production. Phasing out harmful subsidies of inefficient fossil fuel reflects the environmental impacts while minimizing adverse impacts on poor and affected communities. Breaking barriers of communication and recognizing patterns of environmental events will help maintain cultural and community connections. These connections are important for future generations across the nation. The United Nations Social Development Goals have encompassed these issues in sections of their mandate as outlined previously. Thank you so much for participating in this presentation. We can be reached through Circle of All Nations on Facebook if you have any questions or have comments or would like to get involved with our organization. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing that now. There we go. Thank you so much for asking me. Just such interest. Sarifa, I would like to make a comment about your poem. It was beautiful and brought tears to my eyes. It was quite moving and well spoken. Thank you for sharing. And Jackie, your story too. I remember another Circle of Nation event, I think from December, when you were speaking about your experience here, your first couple Christmases, and the story that you repeated today just reminded me of how we do have to appreciate our privilege and not take advantage of it. Yeah, so that was very special. Thank you for sharing that again.
Okay, thank you, Emmeline. This was such a beautiful presentation, and thank you for keeping the story on the move, because really you had done some research some time ago, you updated some of the thinking, and then on the spin, you moved the focus of our discussion from marginalized, isolated communities who we've generally known struggle with many health issues, but still always leave them on the marginalized burner. But by bringing forward the current research, you know, perhaps it will activate the next level of attention, the urgency factor, because it's no longer isolated communities. And who was I talking to just yesterday, was it? With respect to the canary in the coal mine, you know?
The article that you sent to me, the one
Was
you
that
wrote?
it? Well, but I talked about it with somebody. Anyway, it is exactly that. The indigenous, the marginalized people are oftentimes the ones who first feel the impacts of these things, but they're the warning signal. And oftentimes we don't pay enough attention to the warning till, till we're actually having COVID. And I mean, the irony is, of course, that our first keynote speaker, who's actually building the water wells and making the cross-cultural interconnection and dealing with the women's issues and the gender issues, is now also dealing with COVID, you know. But yeah, it shows how everything is so interconnected. Thank you so much for that. I see actually that our colleague, Dr. Graciela Janowski, is also on. And since you did finish off on several UNSDG goals, I'm going to go to her, and she can perhaps follow through on the discussion. She being an NGO organization from from Argentina, from South America, engaged with Circle of All Nations for at least the last 10 years. We've represented and participated with her group on the UN COP17 conference. So I'll bring her into the conversation now, and then perhaps people will have comments about your presentation a little later. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much.
I just put the link for the article I referenced, the Aaron Brockovich one. So I just put that in the chat for people to reference or access whenever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Graciela, there you are.
Hello to everybody. Speaking English, you know, but it's not the same that in Spanish. So if I make some mistakes, thank you for your compassion. Okay, I heard what Romola was saying about me. I am president of the Fundación Argentina Las Naciones, Camino a la Verdad, Argentine Foundations to the Nations, Path to the Truth, and we have 20 years of working as a big family, you know, in Argentina with the United Nations. I work with United Nations since 1999, and we are one of the organizations of the NGOs that of Argentina that have more recognitions. We have 7 observer status. The most important is that we are counselors of the World Economic and Social Forum from the United Nations, that is the most important organism from the United Nations, because they are in every commission, they make the resolution that after are approved or not by the General Assembly. So it's very, very important because we are advisors there of the 193 nations. So we have opportunity to know and to learn many things. And also, we have a permanent status in the World Climate Change, where Romola was our representative in 2017. I don't remember exactly.
2011.
In South Africa. Uh, we have a very nice and very strong ambassador there in that occasion. Also, with the DGC, that is the Department of Global Communication from the United Nations, that is part of the team of the General Secretary. We have an executive committee, a global executive committee, and there I am General Coordinator for all America, from Canada to South America. We work on the United Nations procedures since many, many years, in 1999. So we have the opportunity to learn many, many things. And I was talking with Romola, my sister. We have an agreement since 2008 in the Creator's name. She has there the Circle of Nations with grandfather William Commander also. Yes, and there we decide to work together. He make a special spiritual agreement with my father. Now the two of them are praying upside for all of us, and it is a very important work that she's doing, following the teachings of grandfather William Commander. We work in several opportunities, and we have also the blessing, as I said, to work also with grandfather and with Romola, because she has the opportunity to present the point of view of the grandfather in the first summit of indigenous issues at the United Nations. So it was very, very important because she attended there and put also the vision of the Circle of Nations. And it's a very important thing because they are very, in the United Nations, they are very strict in the way that they allow different organizations to participate. It's logical that because of all the situation all around the world with terrorists and all that story, they need to be very strict. I don't know if it's correct, the word in English, restrictive. It's okay, you understand the idea? And the situation is that we have also the opportunity of work with the World Council of Human Rights. So there we achieve different, I don't know if it calls small or big goals for protect all the human rights. And I see that here you were working with the xenophobia, racism, and I remember that in 2012, the Council of Human Rights called to the 5 continents to present groups of work, ideas, projects, and we present a project that we present first of it in 2009 in Paris. It is a project in favor of the unfairly persecuted, and it was selected to represent Latin America. And in 2013, we presented also at the Council of Human Rights, but with an special characteristic. And the special characteristic is that what really divides the people all around the world is not the gender, is not the race, is not the priorities in religions, is not the political ideas. What really divide the people all around the world is the priority of the heart. Because those that are selfishness you say, correct me, it's okay?
Yes.
Would have a priority that support their needs, their priorities. But when you want to give priority in the hierarchy of your heart, the el bien común, the commonwealth, it's very important to understand that we will do things, and all the people that don't prioritize the materialist path, that prioritize the path of the truth, they will be those who will have the support of the Creator. It's very important because in that opportunity, I put this reflection with the project of the in favor of the unfairly persecuted and indigenous people are also persecuted in many countries, because in many countries they have the legal right on the lands, and those who want to exploit and work on that lands, they feel that the indigenous people, it's a big problem in their places. There is something very important that we need to analyze. It's the passion for be honest, the passion for be truly people, the passion for of understand that we are not only material bodies, we have a spiritual body also. And it's necessary to understand that the way we think of our thoughts, they manifestate the priority of our hearts. And it's very important to understand that when we pass to the another dimension, we can take anything. What we will take is the things of good or bad that we do in this life. So to work in an international level is not easy, because there you will face people that are in those places, in those churches, because they are delegate of people that are in the government with their special and particular view. And it's very important to separate the priorities of the states that are non-negotiable: the life, the education, the health, the economy for the survival. But the political parties are, how can I explain to you, managers. They have their own view of how they can manage the country to achieve that goals. And many times, many people have price on their dignity. So those people that sells their dignity for a position, for a title, for money, are not truly people, because they have price. And when we don't do what is our due to do, we are cómplices. Bueno, ¿qué tal si venís? Cómplices.
Accomplices.
Accomplices of what is not good, you know. Sorry, but I would like to speak better in English, but you know, it's not so easy, particularly with words that are, you know,
You're doing wonderful.
it's not easy. But we have many things to share in this opportunity with you, because we are working on different levels in many places of the world. For that reason, I invite Romola to be part of our group of workers with all the Circle of Nations, because although that in the United Nations they are very restrictive in their way of working, because you must have a formal organization with many antecedents, recognized by your government and recognized in different levels. I know that much of the work that many groups do surrounded the world are informal, but are work that they make with the heart. So we invite Romola. We talked that also with grandfather William Commander, that we are like a door that the Creator do it also with all of us, to have the opportunity that all of you as group can present your point of view, your recommendation, and the expertise that you have all those years in working together and knowing the real problematic of indigenous people through the door that we can open, that is open already, you know, because also I don't know which is the speciality of all of you, but you can be part. I don't know. Jackie, what is your specialty?
I'm an artist and a grandmother.
Grandmother is the most important.
Yeah.
Artist?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. And you, Emilian, sailor?
I'm a student at Carleton University in Ottawa, and I work with Romola with the William Commanda Initiative, and I'm finishing my undergrad in a month, so that's super exciting for me. Yeah.
Oh, it's very important, you know, because I don't know the other persons that are, I don't see them, I don't know which is the specialty of everyone. Hello, Sarifa. How are you? Very nice.
Hola.
You speak Spanish.
Que poco. Very little. Yeah. I am an activist from South Africa. I live in Norway and I work for local government as a consultant. And I also have my company, which is Ubuntu Coaching. And as you know, Ubuntu is the African word which speaks to humanity and interconnectedness. I am because of you, and you are because of all of us.
Wonderful. We need to work together also. So I hope that we can share our telephones by WhatsApp. This is my way to connect quickly with Romola, because we work with people of ¿cómo se llama? Bemuamba, Bruno Bemuamba, él estaba en donde? I don't know if you hear about Bruno Bemuamba in Gabon. No? He
Well,
was running to be president in Gabon.
Yeah,
So
Gabon, yes.
Yes.
wow. Well,
That was just the pronunciation I was trying to get.
okay. Wow, it's really great to see all this connection despite languages and despite the distances in the countries. Um, we're going to carry on our conversation a little further, Graciela, a little later, but I have another person I want to put on because I need to put Patrice Dauphin on for a few minutes because he's one of our Circle of All Nations friends. Maybe you actually met him at one of grandfather's gatherings, Canadian of Haitian ancestry. But today is also his mother, Monique's birthday. And Monique Dauphin and her family used to come to grandfather commander's gatherings for many, many years. And uh, the children grew up over there. But Patrice has a song. Patrice, can you unmute yourself and join us? Um, I hope he will. And if not, I shall play his recording later. But over the sound waves, we'll wish you a very happy birthday, Monique Dauphin. And I see that I have a message from Raymond telling me to do something here to turn the transcript option on in Zoom. And can you help me find that, Raymond or Nick? Okay, I don't see that Patrice is hearing me. But Rachel, I also saw you on. Perhaps you'd like to share for a few minutes?
Thank you, Romola, Kwekakina. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to hear this kind of discussion because we are at a time when we are all facing a global pandemic, and I believe that the pandemic is caused by environmental crisis. So to me, when Sarifa, you read your poem, made me cry, my dear. Because I'm from Algonquin and French ancestry. And I traveled to Africa when I was very young. I'm 70 years old now. When I was 27, I traveled to 7 countries in Africa. And at that time, the Canadian government was not ready to see the situation in South Africa and at the time Rhodesia, who became Zimbabwe later. And it was a tough time because they were accusing the one who were supporting Nelson Mandela and the other of being communists and anarchists and all of those. So those years really marked me and also made me who I am. I'm a mother of 2 children. I don't have grandchildren, but my children were raised to understand the importance of global unity and how we are all brothers and sisters and how we're all oppressed the same way, no matter on what continent we live. So when I hear you speaking, I really appreciate that, Jackie, when you speak about how hard it was for you when you arrived, and your first Christmas here, it's really moving to hear all those testimony. And when Dr. Graciela, when you speak about we're not only material being, but we are spiritual being first of all, this is so true. And we are all going to go to a different dimension. But the work that we do now is what will open the door to a better place, for us and for the children that are going to be there when we're gone. Because that's the approach of indigenous people, to really consider the impact of our action decision now on the 7th generation to come. And that's what is lacking now. People are only thinking about the dollar, making money. They're talking about economy all the time, and they never consider ecology. And now our children are going to be impacted by the overdevelopment of our resources, the abuse, the rape of the land that they do. When I think of how they do the fracking, I question them about if it was your mom who had gold in her blood, would you dynamite her to get to that blood, to get the money, to make money out of your mother's blood? Well, the land is your mother too. Why do you treat the land the way that you do? Because for us, what you do to the land, to the air, to the water, you do to yourself. And you leave that to your children and grandchildren. So it's a time of awakening. I think that if they were smart, which I don't think they are, we would have a meeting of all 5 continents to analyze what is going on with the environment. Because COVID-19 is not just a virus. The biggest virus is the people's mentality that want to make money without thinking. And I have right in front of me a proverb that says, only after the last tree has been cut down, only after the last river has been poisoned, only after the last fish has been caught, only then will you realize that you cannot eat your money. And this is grandfather, as you are aware, was the carrier of wampum belt. And one of those wampum belt, he defended at the United Nations so strongly years ago, telling us that we have to make choices, because it's been predicted 700 years ago that there would come a time where we will all have to take a decision. We come to the fork on the road, where we will have to choose between destruction, materialism, or spirituality. And the work that he did to try to make people understand the importance of choosing spirituality or choosing to leave a land destroyed where we will never be able to give anything to the next generation. So I think that when we talk about racism at all levels, environmental racism, racism of all kinds, we have to continue to talk about it, even if people say they're tired of listening to racism. Well, we're tired of suffering from it. So it's nice to see you all and to see the work that you do. And I honor what you do. I hope that we all keep strong and continue to do what we have to do, because the future of the young one is in jeopardy. So make rich for giving me the chance to speak and to listen to you.
Arasha. I'm glad you were able to join us and drag yourself down from the mountain to the city. And as you said, a place for the 5 continents to come together to think. In fact, that was very much part of Grandfather's international vision for the Sacred Chaudier site, that in fact, had the work commenced 20 years ago, how many more ideas would we have to deal with such a crisis that's yeah, so global. So thank you for bringing that forward. And I noticed Emmeline liked that proverb that grandfather also liked very much, the warning and the prophetic times have unfolded. Yeah. So thanks for that. I want to just see if Andrew Costa, who's going to be doing some commentary for us, whether he's still here. He was very much interested in Earth jurisprudence and tying in again with the rights of Mother Earth. Andrew, are you here? And can you unmute yourself and share?
I have, but my feed is kind of awkward
Okay.
right now, so hopefully you can hear me.
Right now I can.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for having me, Romola, as always. And I mean, all the discussions here have been incredibly illuminating and profound, and I greatly appreciate everybody sharing their own experiences. I mean, it certainly had as always, these discussions always have a major impact on my thinking, and so I thank everybody for contributing and just sharing their own experiences in this. I'm not going to get into a great deal of detail. I certainly don't want to, bore anybody. But, through the past several years, I've been, exploring discussions on Indigenous rights and treaty rights in the Canadian context in general, through discussions on legal traditions and major court judgments and legal concepts. Lately, my work has kind of been taking a more sort of international and transnational turn, and I've been looking into detail on particularly the UN Declaration on Indigenous Rights and the discussions that contributed to that, and how those were developed over time, and the impacts they have when comparing Indigenous nations in what's now Latin America, Africa, North America, for example, even Scandinavia. So on that note, through the past several weeks, I kind of stumbled onto some work I had heard about by authors writing about Earth jurisprudence, and I would imagine that most of you already know what Earth jurisprudence is, but it's basically a branch of legal literature that talks about linkages between basically trying to upend sort of the human-centered nature in sort of modern legal systems today. The idea that for most nations, their legal systems are based on nature being valued only for what it can do to maintain human interest. And Earth jurisprudence as such looks to kind of reverse that process, where it's kind of like, okay, now instead of doing that, now it's about trying to understand the relationships and and how those are developed over time and the interconnections that sustain existence. And for scholars, that could be achieved through a lot of different ways. That it doesn't. For some scholars, it doesn't have to involve kind of upheavals there. It doesn't have to involve like major transitions in legal systems. In some places, it does. So the examples that I kind of drew upon in thinking about this were obviously the major constitutional innovations that have taken place in Latin America. So I would imagine places like Ecuador, places like Bolivia, have actually entrenched constitutional rights to the natural world. And people, all people, not just not just claiming guardians or government, can speak on behalf of the natural world in sort of legal proceedings, and that's constitutionally protected. The other example I could draw on is New Zealand with the Wanganui River gaining personhood rights and having local Maori residing near the river be able to defend it as guardians.